Saturday morning, day 23. So today is the day where we try and finish all of the boxing on the floor itself for the footings, and the rebar boys, one of them is here somewhere, apparently they work their magic, so here he is over on the rock over there. So yeah, today's goal, being Saturday, because they don't work full days, is obviously trying to find out how much we can get done in the one day, because the rebar boys want to carry on getting, obviously, the rebar down. That was my only concern. I was told that the rebar shouldn't stay on the floor for any period of time before the concrete goes on because of the salt air, but this is going to go down Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then pour Tuesday. So what they'd have to do is obviously wash the rebar before the concrete goes in, which apparently is going to be okay. So anyway, I'm just obviously learning as I go, so all I'm hearing is certain things, and I can only take on board what those things have been said. But the engineer that's here, bloody good guy, knows his stuff. He said there's nothing to worry about, so fingers crossed, that should be all good. So the main aim today is to get all of this done, turn it around. So we still have that piece over there to do and the return, and then there needs to be a hole just here for the concrete truck to go to reverse in. So as you can see, it needs to be done, and then at some stage they'll also map out where the columns are going to go through the middle. So there's going to be columns through here, there's going to be columns over there, there's going to be columns there, and there's going to be columns here. So that's the main aim at the moment. So I've got to shoot off and do some errands in the trusty steed. Not too sure why I bought that, but anyway, it's another story. So hopefully when I return, they should have most of it sort of pre-made and going down. Yes, they spent a lot of time making these boxes, 4x2 boxes with obviously some form of sort of boarding on the back, 10 inches high. And as you can see, that becomes the formwork that the concrete's poured into, and they pour the concrete to the very edge, not to the very top. So yeah, fingers crossed it'll be a productive day. I'll return and a lot of it will be done, and we'll get finished by the end of the play today. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I've been away for a couple of hours now. It's still 12 o'clock. I've returned. Another rebar boy there. Whisking away. These guys have made a bit more progress, which is very good, obviously. Now getting down this way. Boxing bits like that. And then they've got the rebar elements drilled in as well by the looks of it. Not too sure what they do that for. I'll ask them about that. So it looks like they've got the return over there done, nearly. No bigger now. And also the return here, which is good news. So then the rebar boys will start making the actual smocks and the cages at some stage, probably later on today, or tomorrow, and they'll start getting lowered in. That then becomes the strength of the whole of the concrete itself. So more progress, good news. Okay, so it's kicking in 10 to 3. Ronald's shot off, because apparently on weekends they like to do their shopping. They don't work, they like to do their shopping apparently. So, but anyway, there's been a bit of progress been made. So, I'll show you very quick. So we managed to get that bit finished now. We're just over the other end now, finishing off. The rebar guys are over there bending away. Those guys are like little machines. They're on price, which means that it doesn't make any difference how long they're there for. They get paid the same. So they pretty much self-manage themselves. And then they all start placing into here. So I'll show you very quickly actually. So they actually make the spurls, I think they call them. They're like little bits of concrete with wire in them. So they cut the actual wire and they turn it into like a little bit of a bow. And then they place it into concrete. And before the concrete goes off, they slice the concrete into pieces to make these. So they basically sit on the floor, and then the rebar sits on top, and this ties to the rebar, which keeps it off the ground by a certain height. So that's a 4x2. So it's about half, so it looks like 2 inch by the looks of it. It's meant to be 3. Let's speak to them about that. It's meant to be 3 inch. So talk to them about that, because that's definitely got to be 3 inch. And basically what that does, that keeps the steel off of the concrete surface. but we need to be off the surface by at least 3 inch. So talk to them about that, because that's got to be right. But yeah, so they'll be laid down first, and then the steel will be laid on top, tied to the actual steel, and then the concrete gets poured on. That's what then gives it its strength and its structure. So still plenty of work to be done to finish off, obviously, but we're getting there. They also put 4x2 beside each one of the boxes, and then cut rebar and hammer that rebar into the floor to try and keep it straight, so as and when the concrete goes in and the weight pushes out, it keeps the boxing straight. So they nail it down as well, but obviously nailing it into quite a loose surface isn't going to keep it there, so that's what they do with the 4x2 and the rebar. So these boxes here are where the actual columns are going to be. So the middle one's going to be bigger, so it's going to be a bigger column, and then there's going to be columns going all the way through the middle as well, and then they're going to be shooting off backwards. So there'll be a couple here, there'll be a couple here, and there'll be a couple over here. So yeah, that's where we are. So see what happens by the end of the day. And one thing I haven't really done is given you a little bit of an overview of behind the property. Obviously the build's going on over there, but this is technically when you walk past the beach. So everyone underneath is undercover, and their property, you know. So these are all the rocks we did, obviously we showed you. We've sort of cleared that out a little bit here, which apparently the neighbours haven't been too happy about, but it needed to be done. It was full of rotten stuff and loads of mud, and so cleared it out, ready for all the natural stuff to start growing back. Anything that was old we tried to snap down so it would actually allow the trees to sort of start living again. Obviously we walked straight to the beach, which is absolutely unbelievable, and then underneath here is just very shaded. I mean, it's boiling out there at the moment, but underneath here it's lovely and shaded, and it's a nice little well, I'm sure the local community can use underneath here once a year or for parties, but yeah, it's nice for kids to play around in, loads of trees to climb. Any downside is these trees, they actually have got these long pines on them, and they protect you from the salt and the wind, which are great, but obviously they die and they fall off and they land up being here, so all the trees are full of them, the ones that are old and fall in their face. So yeah, whilst there's no flooding going on in here, it's amazing. Very shaded, very protected, and obviously the road leads right down to it. And obviously with regards to the land itself, obviously at some stage, you know, our pool will back onto that, so we've got our own little private trees that are in front of our house. Obviously they're not ours, they're the communities, but they literally back onto our house, so no one should have the need to use them. And technically that's pretty much what we'll walk out of the back of our land straight into here. So we'll obviously set up some little tree swings and some nice little we'll rake it all out in here, get it all nice. Alan, our next door neighbours, actually had some power put in here, so we'll continue with that. We'll run our own in, obviously. Probably run our own in. And you can get a nice breeze coming through here, so it's gagging for a couple of hammocks and some chill time, that's for sure. So yeah, and obviously we'll then re-level all of this to make this all down to one, and then eventually it will come into our plot. So our plot technically is where that sand is. Talking about the actual plot and the bill, but we don't really talk about the bit itself. So Alan, our next door neighbour, he's done a great job of his next door. Yeah, it's lovely to see. So hopefully we'll use plenty of this with barbecues and people that want to visit. So that's pretty much it for today. We're just packing up. So yeah, a little bit more progress made. Rebar guys are pretty much bent and cut and done what they need to do and shoved them all in the container they've gone to. So they'll probably be back, well, they will be back tomorrow. Carpenter's coming back in, he's just leaving now. He's coming back in tomorrow to finish that corner. And then technically rebar and corner footings should be ready no later than Monday. That's the plan. So yeah, another day over in beautiful, boiling Barbados.